and reuse jars.
Recycling. I just have a love for jars, and that comes from learning how much plastic leaks toxins into our body and our food, and just wanting to be more healthier and get those toxins out as much as I can. We do as much as we can to get those out, and one of those things that I do is I take most of my stuff out of plastic. If I buy something at the store and it's in plastic jar, I take as much of that out as I can and put in glass. So I'm going to show you some thrifty ways I've come up with to use my jars. I save every jar, and I also have asked family and friends and co-workers to save me their jars. So I'm going to show you some of those, because sometimes there's maybe jars you don't even think about saving and using, and I'm going to show you some of them that I have. We'll start with a canning jar, and I'll show you what I've done to utilize it better. Off of a Parmesan cheese container, and it will fit right on a canning jar, and that comes in handy to put stuff in there to shake your things out, and just makes that more convenient. So that's just a canning jar, or it'll also fit I have honey jars, my quinoa in, and I wrote on the top how to make it so that it's not in a plastic bag, which also spills sometimes. Sometimes if you have just the plastic bag that these things come in, will spill easy. So this keeps that from happening too. And this lid will fit on the honey jars that I get also. So there's two. Next I have a jar that someone gave me that they had bought probiotics in, and my probiotics are kombucha and homemade sauerkraut and fermented foods. And it came in this nice brown jar. Love it. I put my homemade toothpaste in there, and I use that for my homemade toothpaste. The next one, this is pimento jar. Just a little diced pimento jar. Spices in that. And this is a little garlic. I had bought garlic at one time and saved that little jar of garlic. So this one actually has eggshell, crushed eggshell, that I use for calcium. I put a little calcium in my green smoothies. This jar had coconut oil. I use coconut oil all the time in a lot of things, and I use the same lid. This has, I've stored my dehydrated onions in there. I use dehydrated onions. We love them. We grew our onions and then dehydrated them, and we sprinkle them in different things. Anything you'd use some onions in. There you go. This jar, it was extra virgin olive oil that I used, emptied out, and I saved bottles. I've got several of these saved, and I love these. Homemade vinegars. I learned a lot of homemade vinegars off of Rain Country. You have to check out her channel. Heidi at Rain Country is just great. Oh, I don't want to start mentioning people, but Stacy at Off Grid with Doug and Stacy, I learned a lot of her, just different vinegars and ferments and things. And this is a Rose of Sharon vinegar that I made, and I use it in my hair. Of course, here's just an empty one I haven't used yet, but that was somebody gave me a jelly jar. Like I said, I've asked friends and coworkers and everybody to send me to keep me their jars, And they do. They don't mind, most of them. I believe this might have been a spaghetti jar. Not real sure. I have jet fuel latte in here that Heidi from Rain Country makes. And so I have that on the top, latte. And I love this stuff. Love that stuff. And I'm pretty. Here is, I don't drink this. I just, a coffee drink comes in this. And someone gave me that, and it is great for, I actually use it for homemade dressing, homemade salad dressing. I put in that. I'd like to have a few more of those too, but like I said, I don't drink that. I make my own. I make jet fuel latte. Now, this is a jar. This is an old mustard jar. Old mustard jar. I'm pretty sure they don't even make any kind of mustard in a glass jar anymore. They might, maybe like Grey Poupon or somebody, but most of it comes in plastic. Of course, it had no lid, so I thought, oh, I kept it, just putting trinkets in it. It needs cleaning. I clean up my jars really good, especially when I find them like this. I would sterilize that and clean that up good and sterilize it. And there's different ways to do that. You can boil jars to sterilize them. Some people use the oven. I'm not real sure about that. You'd have to look that up. Some people use the oven. Some people use dishwasher. I'm the dishwasher here, so I take my jars and I put them in a real hot soapy water and let them sit for a couple of hours. And then I will take and clean them out real good and take a rag or a washing wand and go down in there good and really scrub them up good with just real hot soapy water, and then rinse them with real hot water. So that's how I clean mine. I wanted a lid for this, and I wasn't real sure, so I had it for a little bit, and then I started trying on different lids. And you may have to do that. You may get jars that don't have lids, but sometimes if you will look around, you'll find some other lid that will fit it. This is some garlic powder, cheap garlic powder. Since we kind of make our own now, we don't use this, but I still have it. I need to dump it. But the lid fits perfectly on the mustard jar. How awesome is that? Who'd have thought it? I can clean that mustard jar up and use it for something wonderful. So I was excited about that. And okay, so here is maple syrup. We bought 100% pure maple syrup at Aldi's, and I saved the jar. I've got a couple of these because we are going to make our own maple syrup. We tried it last year. We made some and boiled it down, and we didn't have a whole lot. So when it boiled down, it didn't make very much at all because it takes a whole lot to make just a little. So I kept a couple of these jars, and we're going to try that again this year and try to make more. And you can make maple syrup out of other things besides maple. There's a bunch of other trees that you can make the syrup out of the same way. We've done it last year. We done it with maple, sycamore. I'm not even going to remember what all, but for sure maple and sycamore. And there's a whole list of them. You can go online and find that. Okay, here's a jar. I don't know what came in this or what this was. I don't really remember, but it's a good little shaker jar that I kept. And I use that. I put dried herbs and crush them up. And when I do a mixture of dried herbs for a seasoning, I usually use that for that. Okay, and I always save these. I save those and put vinegar in those. This was a spice jar that was actually a jar, glass jar, spice jar, and we saved it, cleaned it out, and he makes his own own meat rub. He likes to grill and barbecue, and get him to show you how what's in his meat rub and makes his meat rub out of. This was a tea tree oil bottle that I saved. It's the brown glass, and it had tea tree oil and this, but I cleaned it out, and I make black walnut iodine, and I put that in there, and that's good for wounds and whatever. And we have a walnut tree, so we cut open the green. You take the green hull, and you cut those up and put them in vodka and make walnut iodine. That is wonderful for whatever, cuts, scrapes, whatever. Someone gave me this jar. I don't know what this was. It may just be decorative. It may just be a decorative jar. Someone gave it to me. It says absolutely pure milk, the milk protector. But I'm pretty sure it's just decorative because it has a cork, just a cork lid. But it has a pour spout and has this cork lid. And I love this jar. But, like I said, it may have just been used decoratively, so I don't know what I would put in it. Something like vinegar that I was just going to clean with, or something like that. I'm not real sure. I haven't decided what to do with that yet. But it is a pretty jar, so I may just use it decoratively. Who knows? Let's going back to the, so on the vinegars, I use these jars for vinegars, olive oil and vinegar dressing or something I might would put in there or whatever, but and it's got the green, so that's good. But this one I'd probably more use for a vinegar that I was going to use for cleaning maybe or something. And I actually have one of those made apple cider vinegar that's homemade, and so I'm going to show you that right now, and I'm going to pour that up in here and show you that. Okay, so here is the vinegar I made. It's just apple cider vinegar I made with apple peels. My grandkids come over and love apples, so I always cut them up an apple, peel it. And I make that by putting the peelings in here, and then a little sugar. I use a couple tablespoons of sugar in there, and I use the it's just organic pure cane sugar. I use that, and then I put I use coffee filters just because I have a whole bunch of those. You could use a piece of cloth or cheesecloth or just any kind of cloth really that's good and clean, and a rubber band, and I set that in there, and I put it in a cool dark place for 30 days, and that's all I do, and then it's done. And so I've already cleaned this jar good, and I'm going to show you. I just take and strain this in here. You just drain all that in there and strain it out, and you have your homemade apple cider vinegar. The reason mine is pink looking is because I threw a few Rosa Sharon buds in there, just, I don't know, just to give it something different. So this is good apple cider vinegar. It tastes just like apple cider vinegar. I use it. You could use it for whatever. If you enjoyed that video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Leave us a good comment, and we'll keep making more videos, and you can learn with us.